Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of experts. And, I'm not just talking about like those financial wizards you see on Wall Street. We're going to explore what makes any expert, athletes, artists, you name it. You shared some intriguing excerpts from Brett Steenbarger's Enhancing Trader Performance, which is where we'll be starting.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how much this book reveals about expertise in general, even if you're, not looking to become like a trading guru or anything like that.
Absolutely. The principles Steenbarger outlines apply across so many fields.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really surprising parallels between, say, a chess grandmaster and a top trader.
Oh, interesting.
And that's what we're going to uncover in this deep dive, right?
Mm-hmm.
The common threads that make experts excel and how those insights can help you level up in your own pursuits.
You'd think the key to expertise is just raw discipline, right?
Oh.
Just hours of grinding away at something, pushing through the pain, that whole no pain, no gain mentality.
That's what most people assume. But Steenbarger throws a curveball right away.
Mm-hmm.
He argues that discipline without enjoyment is like building a house on sand.
Oh.
It might look impressive for a while, but it's not going to stand the test of time.
So you're saying that even the most dedicated experts started out because they genuinely enjoyed what they were doing?
That's exactly it. Think about it.
Yeah.
Would you commit like a decade of your life to something you hated, even on the good days?
Probably not, no.
Probably not.
Right.
So Steenbarger highlights this like initiation phase. It's all about that like initial spark of interest, the joy of discovering something new.
That makes sense.
He even compares it to falling in love. You know that feeling of excitement and possibility when you first get into something?
Okay. I'm starting to see what you mean.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic. There are times when even the things we love get tough, right?
Right.
How do experts handle those inevitable challenges? Isn't that where the discipline comes in?
Absolutely. But it's not about forcing yourself to do something you hate. It's about channeling that initial passion into a sustainable process of growth. And that brings us to one of Steenbarger's key concepts, deliberate practice.
Wait, deliberate practice? Isn't that just a fancy way of saying practice a lot?
Not exactly. Deliberate practice goes beyond mindlessly repeating the same thing over and over, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's about constantly pushing your limits, getting specific feedback on your performance, and then adjusting your approach based on that feedback. Think of how athletes break down their movements, musicians analyze recordings, or even how you might debug code to find and fix errors.
So it's like a constant cycle of trying, analyzing, and refining. It's almost scientific.
Exactly. Steenbarger calls it the learning loop, and it's how experts accelerate their growth. They're not just putting in the hours, they're making each hour count.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But how does this all tie back to finding your niche? I feel like we're bouncing between enjoying what you do and putting in the hard work. How do those two ideas fit together?
Well, finding your niche is about identifying that area where your natural talents and interests align with the demands of the field, right?
Okay.
And it's crucial because it's what fuels that long-term commitment.
Right.
Think about those two traders Steenbarger describes.
Okay.
David, the gut-feel S&P scalper, thriving in fast-paced environments, and Pat, who's more methodical and prefers sticking to small caps during specific hours.
I see.
Both are successful, but in very different ways.
Yeah.
It's not about one being better, it's about finding what fits you.
Yeah, I get that. Like, I could never be a brain surgeon, but I can geek out on podcast scripts all day long.
Right.
So finding that fit, it makes the hard work feel less like, well, work.
But let's be honest, even with the passion and the right approach, expertise takes time, right?
It does.
What about that whole 10,000-hour rule everyone talks about? That's where the rubber meets the road, right? Steenbarger doesn't shy away from the fact that reaching true expertise takes significant time. He cites research showing that across various fields, it takes at least a decade to hit those elite levels. There are no shortcuts to mastery.
A decade. Wow, that's a serious commitment. I guess that really highlights the importance of finding something you genuinely enjoy.
Exactly. If you're going to spend a decade honing your craft, it better be something that lights you up even when it gets tough.
Okay. So we've got the passion, the practice, and the patience. What's next on the path to expertise?
This is where things get really interesting. Steenbarger talks about this transition from normal competence, where you're basically following instructions, to a more transformative level of expertise.
Okay.
He uses the term crystallizing experiences to describe these pivotal moments.
Crystallizing experiences. Okay, I'm intrigued. What exactly are those?
Think of those aha moments when your learning goes beyond just accumulating knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like something clicks in a whole new way. You're not just following the rules anymore. It's like the rules rewrite themselves because of what you've discovered.
Wow.
It's like you've unlocked a secret level in the game of expertise.
So it's not just about learning more, it's about learning differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Steenbarger gives a few really cool examples from various fields. He mentions Debussy, the composer, who only found his true calling after being exposed to Wagner's work.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't just that it improved his technique. It sparked something entirely new in his creative approach.
Okay.
And then there's Dr. Robert Coles, the psychiatrist famous for interviewing children in difficult situations. His entire career path was transformed by a single, profound conversation with a 6-year-old girl.
Wow, those are some powerful examples. So how do these crystallizing experiences play out in the world of trading?
Well, Steenbarger himself had one of these moments with something called the NYSE tick indicator, which basically measures the difference between the number of stocks trading on an uptick versus a downtick on the New York Stock Exchange.
Okay.
And it wasn't from someone explaining it to him. It was from months of intensely tracking and analyzing the data himself. That's when the real aha moment happened.
So it's about actively engaging with the information, searching for those deeper insights rather than just passively absorbing it.
Precisely. And this brings us to another crucial point. Expertise isn't just about reaching some arbitrary level of performance or making a ton of money. Steenbarger emphasizes that even consistently breaking even as a trader is incredibly difficult. Fees, data costs, the opportunity cost of your time, all those factors eat into your potential gains.
Hold on, are you saying just breaking even is a huge accomplishment in trading?
Absolutely. It's like the foundation of a house. You can't build anything spectacular without a solid base. Think about a concert pianist. Before they wow you with Rachmaninoff, they spent years practicing scales. Or a surgeon with their steady hand that comes from countless hours of practice dissections.
So it's all about mastering the fundamentals before you can even dream of hitting those expert-level feats.
Exactly. And that's a point that often gets overlooked. It's tempting to chase those flashy advanced techniques, but true mastery is built on a solid foundation of the basics.
Okay. So we've covered finding your niche, putting in the time, having those aha moments. What else separates expert traders from the pack?
One of the key distinctions lies in how experts think differently. And again, this isn't limited to trading. Steenbarger cites research on chess masters, for example. They don't see the board as individual pieces, but rather as meaningful patterns or chunks.
Oh!
This allows them to process information and make decisions much faster than novices.
Interesting. So they're not just seeing more, they're seeing it more meaningfully.
Right.
Like they've developed some kind of X-ray vision for the chessboard.
That's a great way to put it. And expert traders do something similar. They see patterns in price action that others might miss. Take this example. Imagine you're looking at a chart, and you see a sharp drop in price on a huge volume. That's followed by a smaller dip with less volume, but it closes higher. And finally, another tiny dip with even lower volume, but the low stays above the previous two. To an expert, this isn't random noise. They see a story unfolding. Like detectives, they connect the dots to anticipate the market's next move.
Wait, so they're essentially developing these mental models that help them make sense of the market's chaos.
Yeah.
Kind of like those if this, then that rules in coding, but for trading.
You got it. These mental models allow experts to quickly interpret market information and make decisions based on their experience and understanding of those patterns. It's not just about reacting to what's happening right now, but anticipating what might happen next.
This is fascinating. It's like they're playing a different game altogether with a whole different set of rules and strategies. So how do they develop these mental models? Is it just a matter of experience, or is there something more deliberate they're doing?
It's definitely a combination of experience and deliberate effort. Steenbarger talks about how experts use forward reasoning. They gather information, refine their hypotheses as they go, constantly adapting to the situation. Novices, on the other hand, often get stuck reasoning backward, clinging to a preset idea even when the evidence contradicts it.
So it's like troubleshooting a complex issue.
Yeah.
Experts methodically narrow things down as they learn more, while novices might jump to conclusions without considering all the variables.
Exactly. And that's where those mental models come in handy. Experts use them to navigate complexity, to see connections that others might miss. They're constantly building and refining their understanding of the market, like a scientist testing hypotheses and adjusting their theories based on the results.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground already. The importance of passion, deliberate practice, finding your niche, those crystallizing experiences, and now this fascinating glimpse into how experts think.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up part 1, can you give us a little preview of what's coming up next?
In part 2, we're going to go even deeper into Steenbarger's insights, exploring the crucial role of tactics and strategies in expert performance. It's not just about knowing how to do something. It's about knowing when, where, and most importantly, why. Stay tuned.
Sounds like we're about to level up our understanding of expertise. Can't wait to dive into part 2 with you. See you soon.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. In part 1, we explored how experts think differently, almost like they've developed X-ray vision for their fields.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how they connect those seemingly random dots into meaningful patterns.
It is fascinating, isn't it? And in this next part, we're going to kind of shift gears a bit and delve into the practical side of expert performance.
You mean going beyond just the thinking part? Like,
Yeah.
how do experts actually translate those insights into action?
Precisely. Steenbarger makes this crucial distinction between mechanics, tactics, and strategies.
Right.
He argues that expert traders master all three.
Okay, break that down for me. What exactly is the difference between those three? It sounds a bit like military jargon. Well, think of it this way. Mechanics are the how of doing something.
Okay.
It's the tactical skill, the nuts and bolts of the craft. Tactics, on the other hand, are about when and where you apply those skills. It's about timing, positioning, choosing the right battles. And finally, strategy is the overarching why behind it all. It's your game plan, your guiding philosophy, the North Star that directs your actions.
Okay. I think I'm starting to see the difference.
Yeah.
Can you give me a concrete example, maybe something related to trading, since that's our focus today?
Sure. Steenbarger uses this great example of a trader named Scott Pulcini, who made millions early in his career.
Okay.
Pulcini was brilliant at reading short-term patterns in the market.
Okay.
That was his strength, his mechanics.
I see.
But even with those exceptional technical skills, he hit a rough patch when he failed to adapt his tactics.
Wait, so even with great mechanics, you can still stumble. What happened?
Pulcini's problem was that he wasn't scaling out of losing trades as quickly as he was exiting winning trades. Basically, he was letting his losses run too long while taking profits too early.
I see.
Even though he was technically skilled at identifying good trading opportunities, his tactics were letting him down.
Ah, I see. So it's like a basketball player who's amazing at dribbling and shooting, but they keep making bad passes and taking shots at the wrong time. The skills are there, but the strategic application is missing.
Exactly. And this applies to any field, really.
Right.
Think about a skilled surgeon.
Yeah.
They might have incredible dexterity, but they need the right tactics for each specific surgery. Or a brilliant programmer. They need the right strategy for the project to make sure their code is actually solving the right problem.
Okay, so expertise is this multi-layered thing.
Yeah.
You need the skills, but you also need the smarts about when and how to apply them and the overarching strategy guiding your actions.
Precisely. And this brings us to another crucial aspect of expertise that Steenbarger emphasizes, self-mentoring. He believes that watching yourself perform, whether it's trading, playing a sport, giving a presentation, is key to spotting those subtle patterns that can make or break your performance.
Oh, you mean like athletes watching game film to analyze their movements and strategy?
Exactly. And Steenbarger takes it a step further. He recommends analyzing these recordings using what he calls the performance pyramid.
Okay.
First, you look at your overall strategy. Is your approach still valid in the current environment?
Right.
Then you assess your tactics. Are you picking the right battles, making the right moves at the right time?
Okay.
And finally, you examine the mechanics. Are you executing those moves cleanly and efficiently?
So it's like a systematic way to break down your performance, to identify those areas where you're excelling and where you need to improve. It takes the guesswork out of self-improvement. I love that.
It's a powerful tool. And it leads us to another crucial point that Steenbarger makes, the distinction between chronic and situational issues that can impact performance.
Okay, I'm curious to hear more about this. What's the difference?
Some performance problems are due to situational stress. Maybe there's a big life event happening, or you're facing a particularly challenging opponent.
Right.
These are temporary factors that might throw you off your game.
That makes sense. And then chronic issues are more like deeper, more ingrained personality traits that consistently get in the way.
Exactly. Things like chronic anxiety, perfectionism, or even deeper psychological issues. And Steenbarger is very clear that these might require professional help, not just performance tips.
That's a really important point. Performance psychology is one thing, but sometimes those underlying issues need to be addressed at a deeper level.
Right.
So how do we know when it's a chronic issue versus a temporary blip? Like, how do we distinguish between a bad day and a deeper pattern?
That's where self-awareness comes in, right?
Yeah.
Are these issues new since you started this particular pursuit, or have they been present in other areas of your life? That can tell you a lot about the root of the problem.
Okay.
And speaking of those chronic issues, especially those pesky thought patterns that can sabotage our best efforts, Steenbarger is a huge advocate for cognitive therapy.
Cognitive therapy, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure how it works. Can you give me the cognitive therapy for dummies explanation?
He uses this example of a trader named James, whose performance went down the drain after his wife got pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't actually the baby or the impending fatherhood that was the problem.
Right.
It was James's thoughts about becoming a father.
I see.
He started thinking things like, I'm failing as a provider, and that anxiety completely messed with his trading.
So it's not the event itself, but our interpretation of the event that causes the problem. It's like that old saying, we suffer more in imagination than in reality.
You got it. And cognitive therapy helps you identify and challenge those negative, often irrational thought patterns that are holding you back.
Yeah.
It's like becoming a detective of your own mind.
Yeah.
Uncovering those limiting beliefs and replacing them with more empowering ones.
Yeah, okay. That sounds really powerful. But how do you actually do cognitive therapy?
Yeah.
Is this something you can DIY, or do you need to see a therapist?
There are definitely benefits to working with a trained therapist.
Yeah.
But Steenbarger outlines a key technique called the thought record. You can start using it on your own.
Okay.
It's pretty simple, actually. When you find yourself feeling anxious or upset about something,
Yeah.
you write down the situation, your automatic thought about it, and the emotions that thought triggered.
Okay.
Then you actively argue against that thought, looking for evidence that contradicts it.
So you're basically forcing yourself to look at the situation from a more objective perspective,
Yeah.
like a lawyer presenting evidence to a jury.
Precisely. And the more you do this, the more you start to recognize those negative thought patterns and challenge them before they spiral out of control. You start to see them for what they are. Just thoughts, not facts.
Yeah.
And that can be incredibly liberating.
This is amazing. It's like you're retraining your brain to respond differently to those negative triggers.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not just about our thoughts, it's about our behaviors.
Right.
Especially those that are so ingrained, they happen almost on autopilot. That's where behavior therapy comes in.
Oh, yeah. You mean those knee-jerk reactions that we're not even consciously aware of? Like the trader who always panics and oversizes their position after a big loss?
Precisely. Steenbarger calls these conditioned responses.
Right.
He gives the example of, well, a trader who always panics and oversizes their position after a big loss. It's not a conscious decision. It's a learned reaction, almost like a reflex.
I could see how that would be a problem.
Yeah.
So how does behavior therapy address those unconscious reactions?
Well, Steenbarger compares it to how we respond to trauma. Even a single intense event can kind of rewire us,
Yeah.
making us avoid things that trigger those negative feelings. Behavior therapy aims to break those unhealthy links. Often through controlled exposure and relaxation techniques, it's like gradually desensitizing yourself to the trigger.
So you're basically retraining your brain to respond differently to those triggers.
Yeah.
Replacing the fear and panic with something more constructive.
Exactly. It's about creating new, healthier associations. And Steenbarger actually recommends a few specific techniques that can be helpful for traders. Things like stress inoculation training and biofeedback. We'll be diving into those in more detail in Part 3.
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to learning more about those techniques. This has been such an eye-opening deep dive so far. See you soon for Part 3.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've covered so much ground in Parts 1 and 2, from the importance of finding your niche in those crystallizing experiences to the power of cognitive therapy in tackling those pesky negative thoughts. Now, I'm really excited to dig into those behavior therapy techniques you mentioned, especially for those like knee-jerk reactions that can totally sabotage our best intentions. Where do we even begin?
Well, one technique that Steenbarger highlights is called stress inoculation training. It's essentially a way to prepare yourself for those high-pressure situations, before they actually happen.
Oh, I like the sound of that. It's like mental rehearsal for traders, right?
Yeah.
Getting your head in the game before the game even starts.
You got it. Think of it like a vaccine.
Okay.
You expose yourself to a weakened version of the stressor in a controlled environment so that when the real thing hits, you're better equipped to handle it. Okay, I get the analogy, but how would this work for like a trader? Let's say someone tends to freeze up when the market gets really volatile, like they completely forget their trading plan and just sit there paralyzed, watching their profits just evaporate.
Steenbarger suggests pairing relaxation techniques like deep breathing exercises with vivid imagery of those stressful situations. So you might imagine yourself calmly navigating a volatile market, focusing on your breathing and, flawlessly executing your trading plan, even as the market's like going haywire.
So you're basically rewiring your brain to associate those stressful triggers with a sense of calm and control. Like instead of panic, it's, deep breaths. I got this.
Precisely. And the more you practice this, the stronger those new associations become. It's like building mental muscle.
Very
You're
good.
training your mind to respond differently to those stressful cues.
Mental muscle. I love that.
Right.
So what about biofeedback? You mentioned that in part 2, and it sounded really intriguing.
Yeah, biofeedback is another powerful tool that can help you become more aware of your body's physiological responses to stress.
Okay.
It typically involves using sensors to measure things like your heart rate, muscle tension, or even your skin temperature. And then it provides you with feedback on those measurements, in real time.
Wait, so you can actually see how your body's reacting to stress? That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like having a window into your own nervous system.
Exactly. And that awareness is the first step towards gaining control. Once you can see those physiological changes happening, you can start to learn how to manage them. Steenbarger even mentions a software program called Journey to Wild Divine.
Okay.
It's a combination of biofeedback and interactive games specifically designed to cultivate a state of calm focus.
Hold on. You're playing video games to improve your trading. This is getting better and better. What's the game like? Do you have to outsmart a virtual stock market or something?
Yeah, no. It's not that kind of game. These games are designed to challenge your ability to relax, focus, and control your physiological responses. And they use biofeedback to measure your progress so you can actually see how you're doing. It's like having a personal trainer for your mind.
This is incredible. So
Yeah.
you're literally training your brain to stay calm under pressure, all while having fun playing a video game. It sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, the results speak for themselves. Many traders have found biofeedback incredibly helpful in managing their stress and improving their performance. And the best part is, the skills you develop in these games, they can translate directly to other areas of your life too.
This whole deep dive has been so insightful, but it also makes me wonder, if the path to expertise is so demanding, why do we even bother? What's the ultimate reward of striving for our best, whether it's in trading or any other field?
That's a great question. And I think Steenbarger touches on this in his closing remarks. He talks about this like deep-seated human desire to become the best that we can be, to push our limits, to venture beyond our comfort zones.
Yeah.
And I think there's something inherently fulfilling about that process, that journey of self-discovery and growth.
You mean it's not just about reaching the destination, it's about the journey itself?
Exactly. It's about constantly challenging ourselves, expanding our capabilities, and realizing our full potential. And ultimately, I think it leads to a sense of freedom, the freedom to pursue our passions, to master our craft, and to create the life that, we want.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to put it. The freedom to become the architects of our own lives, to shape our destinies through dedicated effort and continuous learning. And, trading, like any other demanding pursuit, can be a path to that freedom. It's not just about the money, it's about that journey of self-mastery and growth.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that inspiring note, I think we'll wrap up this incredible deep dive into the world of expertise. I hope you found it as insightful and motivating as I did. Remember, the journey to expertise, it's ongoing. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep striving to become the best version of yourself.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep pushing those boundaries, and remember, the power to become an expert lies within you.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.